Hello and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me from Lucky Bay, Sejohn Sarowick. Sejohn.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What is where are we going with this opener?
Well, you are the Duke of Baloney, Sejohn, and I just want to be mad at you. I just want to be mad at you, but this is not a time for anger. This is a time for reverence.
Is that because it's the week of our great Lord, the Turkey Gobbler, Thanksgiving? That's the word I was looking for. I was searching for a long time, found a lot of other words, not the words I wanted.
No. It's because last week we recorded early, and thank God we did in a lot of ways. Because it gave us a week to reflect upon the passing of a man who, if you've listened to the Say Report, if this is your first time, then, buckle in. This is pretty much the Cliff Notes of what this show is. Means a lot to us. He still means a lot to us, right? Just as he passes, it doesn't go past tense. And that's Stan Lee, kind of the father of Marvel Comics, at least the godfather of Marvel Comics. I mean, he's kind of like a Corleone, if we're talking about...
yeah.
I mean, Stan Leone is really what he was. No, Stan Lee passed away a week ago, and we had already recorded, and we're already down on digital tape, and we had done a really good episode, I imagine. I haven't really listened to it, aside from the notes that I got recording. It's just, I would like to pay respect to a man who meant a lot to us. So Stan Lee, 1,000 Excelsiors from everyone here at the Say Report. You were faceless until I saw Mallrats in 2001.
Man, the original Stan Lee cameo.
Well, no, he definitely had cameo in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Does that make Mallrats part of the MCU in some fashion?
Well, it certainly no, because he's actually playing Stan Lee. He's not playing his Watcher character that it was revealed to be at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So, no, that's really just Stan Lee talking to Brody Bruce about superhero sex organs, and if Mr. Fantastic can stretch his whole body like his, and if the Thing's dork is made of orange rock. But I mean, with the comic code, we really couldn't explore those things.
The pinnacle of his work.
So, I gave him the Vulture's soliloquy from Spider-Man Annual. He'll grow out of it. What is happening, Sejohn?
Oh, somebody from Ohio was trying to call me.
That's weird. What?
I don't know.
On Skype at this time?
Yeah, that was weird.
That's
I also
never
don't know why
happened
that
before.
came through my... Oh, you know what? It's because my headphones are so good. My headphones are turned up too high. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, so while he's doing that, I mean, that's what I have to say on Stan Lee. Once he gets his headphones set up, we'll give the floor to Sejohn.
No, I'm here. No,
Anything to add, sir?
No, I mean the guy did fantastic, wonderful, great things in this world, And I'm sure at some point we'll get around to talking about some of the shadier stuff with Marvel that's going to have to be, addressed now that Stan Lee is not here to be the face of Marvel. It's like a cork coming off. We're going to find out a lot about the different other artists that are involved there that I think we're going to start seeing more faces of and stuff like that, because he really kind of eclipsed a lot of them.
Especially he eclipsed a lot of them, because I saw a shirt that was like Excelsior written out with all these characters that he created. He did not create Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
He did not create Captain America. He wrote a lot of Captain America, but paying tribute to him with names of characters and not doing the quick check that he created all those characters, that was a little odd. Especially, it's not like they used Deadpool for the ever rare in characters in the comics like D or P. They used it for an E, which is the most frequent vowel. So it was it was weird, but it's that exact thing. He eclipsed a lot, sort of with Batman. There's another man who created Batman, And
Yeah, not just Bob Kane, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but and that's something that we come up against with all of these like really big artistic types. I mean, prime example of this is somebody like Walt Disney, right? Like, there's so many other animators that really should get some credit in the creation of the Disney ethos, but really Walt Disney's the guy that we put the face and the name to, and that requires a certain something, right? A certain amount of charisma, a certain amount of oomph, and an ability to get out there and get things done. And I mean, let's face it, no matter what anybody's going to think about Stan Lee on the creative side of things, at the end of the day, like, he saved Marvel. He brought Marvel back from the brink. He was the head of the company as that was all going down, and then throughout the 90s and stuff, right? So
yeah, he became a figurehead, and he definitely steered it in the right direction. Speaking of Walt Disney, happy 90th birthday, Mickey.
Yeah.
And there's one other bit of reverence while we're doing this like quiet fireside moment. I have a candle lit. I don't know about you at home. I hope you do. Take a second to light a candle. I'm sure your mom has one in the bathroom, or at least your father to cover up his stank. We lost another creative voice, and this one I'm a little nervous about that we may have had a hand in, because we kind of lavished praise upon him.
Of course.
And it's William Goldman.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that is why this is called, at the risk of sounding like a screenwriting 101 court case, the Lee Goldman Report. Unless, Sejohn says, no, we're not calling it that. And then it's another title, and you're like, what is he talking about? Behind the scenes. But like, you look at Stan Lee and everything like that, but William Goldman, I mean, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Marathon Man, All the President's Men, The Princess Bride. He was a huge creative force in Hollywood in the 70s and 80s. And his death, I mean, I'm not, it hit me more than Stan Lee's, which is a weird thing to say. Like, last week was a hard week for creative force in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And it's
I mean, and you're talking about a guy that, I mean, it's not just that he was there in the 70s and 80s. Like, he shaped a lot of stuff that, like, that we really kind of picked up on, and like our style of of humor, our style of our understanding of fantasy and sci-fi. Like, this guy shaped a lot of it. Princess Bride is more than just a fantasy film, right? Like, it's a fantasy comedy with weird vignettes, and there's almost like a Mel Brooks level of like parody in it, right? And so there's something more to it than that. But like, without a guy like him, you don't get guys like Shaun of the Dead and what's his name?
Edgar Wright.
You don't have a guy like Edgar Wright in the world who, like, I love and I will see all of Edgar Wright's stuff, but like he owes a lot to that, and there's
Hollywood itself, the entire 80s and what 80s cinema owes a lot to William Goldman.
Right.
Same to the 90s, but in the 90s they were like aware of it, so it kind of got a little odd.
Right.
Like, is it safe in the Clerks animated series? Like,
and I think that's something that we're the same with Stan Lee. We're talking about like trendsetters. They were the guys that were there that really kind of set the tone for what the industry they were working in was going to be later on. So like, yeah, really big.
Really big. Really, like, so like, I know that everything out there's being Stan Lee, and like, at the risk of sounding like Bill Maher, make sure that you also take the time to like watch The Princess Bride or read it. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm paying my tribute to William Goldman. Is I want to read the book. You don't
said anything like Bill Maher, the ignorant idiot.
No, I understand that, but but that's the thing, right? Is that like anything could be misinterpreted or anything like that. Like, because I mean, one of the issues in this world, I mean, because like the Bill Maher thing, yes, it was a pig-headed thing to say, right? We don't usually hit this stuff on the Say Report, but it's true. It was kind of a pig-headed thing to say, but like,
well, I mean, he's talking about he's talking about our wheelhouse, man, and like calling out people like you and I as if we are somehow to blame for certain things in this country that we are in no way to blame for,
Right. No, and that's very true. I mean, that's also his gig, and the other thing is that the only reason that those words have power, the only reason we're even talking about it right now, is because we heard it and we reacted.
Yeah.
Like, let's take this Bill Maher moment as a learning experience to, like, people are always going to be crowing an opinion that you disagree with. And if you're part of the majority of people who like think that person is a fool, do not give them the satisfaction of validating that that opinion was even said or shared. because like as much as everybody's upset with him, it still clicks. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Yeah. And like that's an important lesson to learn in 2018, where like that's kind of the reason where we have the current president that we have.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Is that he said crazy shit, and we're like, can you believe he said this? And it's like, where normally if someone said something crazy, you just let it slide. You don't. I mean, and in a 24-hour news cycle, like if you allow the same person and the same stupid crazy bullshit to dominate those 24 hours,
it blows up.
Yeah, that's just what happens. It becomes an echo chamber. And if you've ever heard like a feedback with a microphone too close to a speaker,
yeah,
that's kind of the world we're living in right now.
Yeah,
it's just that feedback because
it's cringeworthy.
We keep commenting on it.
Yeah.
So like that's it, and I just want to make sure. Like I don't mean to offend. I understand what Stanley did. He is an important force, but like William Goldman is one too, and I just wish that I had seen the same outpouring from people for him. But like,
it was there, man. It was much more of a niche thing, I think, with him than it was with Stanley, obviously, because of the the way that things are right now.
That's
in the
true.
world.
I mean, Princess Bride didn't make $1 billion this year.
Right, exactly. But man, there's enough nerd love to go around, like for sure. Like just remember everybody that we're losing right now because we got to make up for it somehow, guys. Like it's time for one or two of us to get our ass in gear and do something because we are losing people fast on our side of the fence.
Wow, that really felt like a call to arms.
I'm just saying.
It's true. It really is. And it is a creative call to arms from the Say Report to you.
Man, I was gonna get down on some Batman stuff today, but now I don't know if that's the way to go right now.
You can get down on Batman. Like, do you mean like talk about Batman or like tear down Batman?
Not tear down. I mean, like you know me. I understand that my tastes do not reflect everybody's in the world, and like I am not having a great time with current Batman right now. I'm trying to get caught up with the Tom King stuff that's been going on. The wedding specifically, or the non-wedding as it turned out to be, of Batman and Catwoman. And like I want to get caught up on it. I mean, specifically. This all started because of the DC streaming app and the fact that it also comes along with a bunch of comic book reading. And I was trying to decide if I don't think the streaming side of things is worth it yet, but if the comic book side of things would actually make up for that for me, because I think it's only like $7.99 a month or something like that, and you get a ton of DC comic books on top of the streaming service. And so I decided to do a little bit of research first and see if any of the comics were really anything I felt like reading right now, before I bought in on this. And I thought, well, Batman would be my litmus test. I tend to be pretty apologetic for any and all like ridiculous Batman stories. There really isn't one that I don't like. And so I just thought if this seems like it's worth it, then I guess I could pay the money for it. And it turns out I don't like it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, let me tell you though, because $7.99. I bought a couple of comics. Well, first of all, I have fallen out of love with the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I will be the first person to say that. It just got too much for me, and I'm sorry. I still love the Ninja Turtles. That particular iteration of them got too much for me. But I was dinking around in the comic book store, and I saw that. And it's at the same time as being something that like I paid money for. It's totally like, we're going to like take this idea that was actually revolutionary in the 80s when Eastman and Laird first did it. And we're going to like kind of tread on it and make money on it. And it kind of disgusts me just a little bit, right? Because they got my money.
That's kind of IDW's game, though,
That
right?
is sort of IDW's game, 100%. But
they go out there and they find those little indie things that people love, and then they try and bankroll them into larger things that, like, for good or for ill. I mean, some fans out there appreciate that because it means, more merchandise, more things to love. But like you're saying, sometimes it gets out of hand in a really gross way.
I'll also say that, like, this. All right, so a little history lesson, right? I'm going to put on my Professor Devon cap. In the 80s, like, mini-series were this huge thing, right? The Secret Wars happened, Crisis on Infinite Earths, like, it became the thing in the 80s to do these. What was
We
that?
also see that in television too. Like it's just something as a culture we kind of got into this idea of like tight knit like projects that both in reading and in visual stuff. There was just something about the idea of the miniseries that just we all kind of latched onto.
And the response to the miniseries from Eastman and Laird, because they're like, we can't do that. We know that we can't do that, was to do self-contained one-shot issues that they called micro series. And that's still like one of the funniest things, but like it is also still special because
Nerds.
a little, right? Like they released 4 of them, and their names are Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo, and each one specifically focuses on one of the turtles removed from the family. So it's sort of like this examination on a microscopic level of the character, and they're kind of like thumbing their nose to what the miniseries was.
Right.
So it's nice. It's this nice thing. In fact, it's so nice. The basis for the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is primarily the Raphael one shot and the Leonardo one shot.
Yeah.
So it also worked, right? Like they told good stories, compelling stories. So I'm walking through the comic book store, and I see on the shelf Donatello Macro Series.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm like, oh. So I bought it, right? And here's how I justified buying it. And I justified buying it because Dale's favorite turtle is Donatello, right?
Okay.
So I'm like,
Okay.
I didn't buy this for me. I bought this for Dale.
Mhm.
But, I got time to kill, so I'll read it.
Nice. Very nice.
Probably the first time she heard that book had been pre-read. But that book, right, which was not much bigger than a standard comic, right? Which in IDW, they do 32-page books, but like a quarter of that is all advertising.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're about the size. Like, this felt like a regular-sized comic story, not really macro. It cost $7.99. So, like, that I could get the DC streaming service if I cared about any of those characters to read about them.
Yeah.
Or to watch them. Like, it works.
Yeah. To be fair to the series, to be fair to the service, I mean, like it actually goes back quite a ways too. Like it's not like it's only just the most recent stuff or anything like that. So I'm sure that for somebody out there, it's worth it. I'm just trying to figure out for me, and I have yet to make that decision. So that says something, right?
Right. Well, all I wanted to say is that the price is right.
Yeah.
On that.
Right. And so I decided to dive into some of the Tom King Batman stuff. I haven't really picked up Batman comics since Scott Snyder was writing, and even then I missed the end of his because it was about the time when like you do with comics, you fall in love with them for a little bit and then you stop buying for a while and then you come back about it 6 months later and buy up a bunch of stuff that you missed out on. And there's something about the way in which he portrays all of the DC characters. This isn't just a Batman thing. I don't like the way that he writes any of them because there's a crossover, 2-issue crossover with Wonder Woman, that kind of wraps up some stuff from before the Dark Knight's Metal stuff, where they had basically gone into another realm and met this character called the Gentleman. Do you know anything about this guy?
Nope.
I don't think he's that deep of a character. It might have even just been created for the series. But essentially, he's this dude in this other realm who is forever and always will be fighting against these like fantastical creatures to like keep them at bay from breaking through into our dimension. And like this is his job in the universe, is to just spend the rest of eternity fighting these things. And they make some promise with him that if he helps them settle whatever it is they need to do, they'll come and give him a reprieve. So in this whole wedding story of Batman marrying Catwoman, and it is specifically that. I don't know if people are aware of that, but like it is actually laid out in the series that it's not going to be Selena Kyle marrying Bruce Wayne. It is going to be Batman marrying Catwoman. And I don't know if that's supposed to mean something in the larger scheme of things. It never really came to any point for me.
I'd like to address that if I may address that.
Well, it's really emblematic of a lot of what Tom King does. So please, yeah, what do you think?
What I'd like to address about that is they do that kind of stuff in comic books where like it's this huge reveal that Peter Parker is going to tell everyone that he is Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember that in Civil War? That's one of those defining moments for me in comic books history, for my own personal history, right? And I'm like, who's really gonna care? Whose life does that like actually affect?
Yeah.
Like, like I get like everybody kind of has to have some idea, right? Like
Right.
Aunt May has to have been like making cuddle one night and was like, I wonder if Peter's Spider-Man. Back to the cuddle.
Well,
Like,
what's even weirder about that is that they don't even know how to play that up in the television shows or the movies. Every single version of Aunt May is always in this really weird space where like half the time you're pretty sure she knows, and then there's moments when you're like, oh, she obviously doesn't know, but maybe she does know. Like they can't even figure out what to do with that in the movies.
right, exactly. So they don't know where to do that. But then like I think about the fact that, oh, okay, so the whole reason that Peter Parker is one of those people who like explains the secret identity better than anybody else
Mm-hmm.
in like a real weird way, because like he is most afraid of his enemies using his family against him.
Right.
Like that is specifically, he has said that more times than like I could count, that
Right.
like the reason people can't know who I am is because of this is the reason.
And it's written into his origin story with everything that happens with Gwen
Yeah,
Stacy. Like
exactly.
so he has that kind of bred in him for sure.
But then you also look at the fact that at the time where he's revealing his identity to the world, he's like an Avenger. So like he's kind of got a support system. Like it's not before when you're like just some dude living in Queens. Like, you know who doesn't get attacked? Captain America's family. I don't think he has any family. That was
Yep.
actually pretty mean to Captain America. I did not think before I spoke there. But seriously, you think of these A-listers in the Marvel Universe, and very rarely do their rogues attack the ones that they love.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of like the Fantastic Four. Everybody knows who the Fantastic Four are, right? Like the
That's like a well-established fact. Like it's
Right.
one of those things where in the very first issue of Spider-Man, he's like, I'll go join the Fantastic Four. And they're like, hey, if you want to be part of this, you just got to tell us who you are. Like, they're all about it. Like, they're like, yeah, we'd love to have a fifth member, right? Everybody would have
Even though
to buy new fucking T-shirts
Even though
if
he's
we
a
added
dick.
a fifth.
He shows up and he's just an asshole. But yeah, they're
Yeah,
like,
but then they're still like all about like, yeah, you're right. We could use a guy with spider powers. We could use someone who didn't get their powers from space travel. It's real hard to explain that to people. But then they're like, you just need to tell us your identity. And he like freaks out about it. And it's like, these four people, one guy can't have a secret identity.
just can't. There's no way for him to.
No way for Ben Grimm to like go out and get a job at Burger King and not have everyone be like, are you the Thing?
Hey, there's another guy that looks like you.
He fights crime and stuff. Yeah, it's just so weird, like that reveal. But then, I mean, and this whole Batman marrying Catwoman thing just reeks of when Spider-Man was dating Felicia Hardy. Peter Parker was dating Felicia Hardy, and Felicia Hardy broke up with him because she's like, I'm not really in love with Peter Parker. I'm in love with Spider-Man. like it seems like the Peter Parker, like, all right, then how about Spider-Man and Black Cat get married?
Yeah,
I'll get pictures for the Bugle.
It's one of those things where, like, one of the things that I loved about Scott Snyder is that he had these really, really, really big ideas, but he could also handle all of the small detail things that would go into that, right? Like the moment-to-moment stuff was just as good as the larger picture. So, like, you could just pick up an issue out of Batman Eternal, or you could read the entire 52-issue series. Either way, you're going to have a good time. With the Tom King stuff, it just feels like there are definitely moments where I'm like, oh, this is good. I see it. And he had to build to that, but his build to that just was a slog, or insane, like just ridiculous, like this stuff with the whole wedding thing. Like what he really wants to get at is the way that all these people would react to Batman essentially saying, I think I got to retire. Like, there's no way for me to be Batman and be married at the same time. And even him not being able to admit that is like an important part of it. And like that's all really interesting. And like the way that he deals with the way the Woman reacts to him, or the way that he deals with Clark finding out, like all of this stuff is really interesting, and these moments are great. But like it all the connective tissue is just unbearable. Like it even gets down to like the dialogue, the way that he has Diana speaking in the Wonder Woman stuff is like it's almost offensive. Like he turns her into a cave woman just because she's supposed to be, I don't know, like Amazonian. So that means that she speaks in like 3-syllable sentences or something. It's ridiculous. I don't know, man. And like, I know there's people out there that are actually way into it. And there was a lot of love for the whole like build up and resolution for the wedding and all that stuff. And so I know that it's like an important thing that's going to affect like the universe from here on out, everybody in the universe from here on out. Like, so I recognize the importance of it, but I just don't. I'm not enjoying it, and that was kind of a bummer. Like, but also again, really telling about all this stuff with the DC stuff. I don't think I'm ready to invest in a DC app right now that's going to get me a bunch of stuff that I'm going to feel is pretty mediocre,
I want to share some stories about my time with Marvel, but before that, you have just made me ask a question that I have never asked before.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck didn't Clark Kent change his name?
What? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why didn't he change his name?
So he is not like, he's not somebody who was like born on the earth and no like had like a social security card and stuff.
This sounds like a really good Elseworlds like exploration of like Clark Kent just deciding to go underground because he has no identity and like using his superpowers to.
No, but I'm saying like because like one of the reasons that like his identity like is so important, like secret identity, is like he doesn't his family. Like that same thing, like but less than with Peter Parker, because like Clark Kent lives an entire state away. Well, like right. Peter Parker lives upstairs from his aunt. So like I get it.
There's also Superman syndrome. Like, I mean, who the hell is gonna fuck with Superman's family? So right. Like his whole thing about how I don't want people to know who I am. Really? You're Superman. Is anybody gonna be that stupid to like
Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor
no,
is that stupid.
Lex Luthor would actually, well, I'm sure that there's versions of him in the comics where he would, but like my favorite versions of Lex Luthor would be the kind of guy that like wouldn't care about that.
He would send them a Christmas card every year.
Exactly. Like he'd be more inclined to be like
I hope you have a green Christmas.
Yeah, like he might do some like ridiculous stuff, but he's got better shit to go after Superman with than to just attack his family. Like that's so passe.
Even the original Lex Luthor, who only hates Superman because he used his powerful wind breath to put out a chemical fire in his lab and it made him bald forever, would like not attack his family. You're right. He would he'd do like cunty shit, like send Christmas cards or like flowers on Mother's Day.
I mean, I don't know. It's ridiculous. I mean, and now there's now stuff floating around in the Batman stuff, like thanks to Scott Snyder, that like the Joker has probably known who Batman is all along, and he's never really gone after Batman. The closest that he's ever come to doing a family member thing is obviously when he goes after Barbara but that's Gordon. Like that's between him and Gordon. That's not between him and Batman. Right. So like the idea that like Batman does not want everybody to know that he's Bruce Wayne is, again, it's like, well, okay, who's gonna care? You have billions of dollars, and on top of that,
but here's the thing. I 100% think that if Bruce Wayne's identity were revealed, he would lose Wayne Enterprises. Like his is a secret identity that makes sense to me. His is a secret identity that 100% makes sense to me because, like, no two ways about it. He's fucking embezzling money for the Batman project.
Right. Yes, no, he's committing many crimes.
He has a board that he has to answer to.
And well, yeah, but I mean, now you're talking about Oliver Queen, like areas here is what you're talking about. Yeah. Who has come out and revealed who he is, and he's fine.
Right.
So we see that it's possible to be okay.
But I feel like the big thing is that like the beautiful thing about the Bruce Wayne Batman secret identity is sort of what I would aspire to. I have my own thoughts on secret identities that I will not share here because they're too secret and too precious. once I write my own comic book series, then you'll get to read about them there. But I don't want to share it because this idea that I have is it takes everything that we're kind of discussing and I've gelled it down into the perfect way to have a secret identity. And it's mine.
Huge.
And it's mine.
It's
and
huge.
it's secret. It's
I just
huge.
can't tell you.
I can't tell you it's huge. It's got the best words to describe my secret identity plan. I don't want anyone to steal it. Like I'm legit. Like it means that much to me.
Mail that shit to yourself, man.
I have, but you never know, right? Ideas just happen. I'm sure that that this has already been done too, but like it just means so much to me that I keep it inside into myself in secret. That being said, the fact that like Bruce Wayne, he's like, I'm gonna cultivate a like no one would believe I'm fucking Batman because I'm banging whores. Bruce Wayne woke up this morning outside of Gotham Hospital, dick just hanging out of his pants.
Just dick in the wind, man.
And it's like, that guy's Batman. That guy's not Batman. He woke up with his dick hanging out of his pants yesterday. If that guy were Bat, he'd be more put together. Like it's
he walked into a 7-Eleven high out of his mind and bought every Twinkie in the place. That's not Batman.
That's not. He bought the convenience store. Just so he could eat the Twinkies. He took a bath in the slushy machine. Like, I really, like, that is just, like, the beauty of his secret identity. Like, and everybody says that, like, Clark Kent is similar to that. No, it's not. Oh, I'm a little clumsy and I have glasses. That guy's never Superman. I'm sorry. He's also fucking ripped for a reporter. Yeah, you ever see Clark Kent go to the gym?
He's the kind of pretty that, like, when he is clumsy, it's charming. It's not like it's not a fault in any way. You don't look at him and just be like, oh, what a klutz. He can't be Superman. You're too busy. You're too busy falling in love with him.
I wish he were just clumsy all the time. That would be wicked funny. If
if even as Superman, he was actually
he's just
a
like
klutz.
A huge klutz. And like that's where Lois Lane is like, have you ever noticed that Clark Kent and Superman are both super clumsy? Yeah. And everyone's like, you're an idiot, Lois. You're dumb. What? Just because Superman dropped that building.
Whoopsies.
You think that Clark Kent spills coffee on himself. He doesn't drop buildings.
Another super uh-oh. Sorry. Oh, man. So
but like honestly, it just boggles my mind that why wouldn't Clark Kent cultivate? I'm sure that his parents still have the connection that got him the fake Social Security information, and they could build him a new identity. And then then there's no issue there at all.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's comic book stuff, right? Like, and it's this thing that, like, if it's a good writer, we ignore this silly shit, right? Like, we are able to see past that and see the greater story, whatever allegory or whatever it is that we're supposed to get from it. But it's when the writing starts to kind of fall over itself when you really start to pick up on this silly stuff, right? Because there's some, like I said, there's some beautiful moments in the stuff that they do with the Batman story. I mean, like his relationship with Selina and what that actually means for him, what it means for him to be happy and all of that, like great ideas, like really great big ideas to explore with Batman. Like as somebody that's been reading Batman for a long time, it's stuff that I've never seen before in some moments. But then in other moments, like I said, it's just not worth it. Like, we're at a day and age now where an issue of a comic comes out and then people spend the next 30 days ripping it apart until the next one comes out. And this is the kind of stuff that you're better off just reading that stuff than you are reading the actual issues right now. There is one issue that I guess it's another two-parter issue that I think I might go out and pick up, and it's everything that happens with the Joker and all of this. There's a 2-issue series in which he basically he almost kills Batman, so Batman's like dead on the ground for like 2 issues, and then him and Selina just basically have a conversation about their relationships with Batman and what it means for Batman to be marrying her, and Joker actually feeling weirdly left out of things. I think is supposed to be the feeling that he has the whole time, and it's actually like a weird, again, a great like idea exploration of these characters, but to get to those 2 issues, you have to get through, a dozen more setting everything up for that moment to really work. And not everything in those dozens of issues before is worth it to me. So I don't know, man. I mean, like I was spoiled with Scott Snyder and all of the artists that worked with him to really build his vision of what Batman was for like 5 years more even. And so like I know I'm coming off hot of probably what's going to end up being my favorite writer for Batman of all time. So it's going to be hard for me to ever accept anybody after that. So that's part of it too, right? But I don't know. It's just some stuff that's just not working for me, and it was a shame.
It is kind of a shame. I will agree with you. And that's why I want to talk about my happy comic book experience.
All right.
And that is, I was, again, dinking around in a comic book shop killing time, and I found that Sleepwalker, who was bar none my favorite Marvel hero. Like, I
feel like we've ranted about this before.
Oh, I love Sleepwalker so much. Sleepwalker has a new book, and it makes total sense that Sleepwalker has a new book because they're revisiting the Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
And Sleepwalker was a huge part of the Infinity War in the early 90s. Like the whole the only reason I've read the Infinity Gauntlet stuff is because it affected issues of Sleepwalker. And I'm like, I need to know what's going on.
I should probably check out this big event shit.
So what is going on currently in the Marvel universe? I think currently, these are new books. I know that for a fact. It's not like I found something years old. It was on the new this week section of the store. Is Gamora got the Infinity Stones and is basically doing what Thanos did, but she, in her wisdom, is not killing people. She's merging them.
Oh, God.
So Captain America, in the issue, these are the only ones that I saw in the issue, is Captain America and Doctor Strange got merged together.
Yeah, in a really awesome, like, vision of the two of them. Like, I love the imagery of the two of them merged together.
Yeah, like, it's super cool. Spider-Man and Moon Knight, which is, like, to me... I'm like, what a perfect pairing. I was so happy when I saw that. So Sleepwalker, Rick Sheridan is gone because he got merged with somebody else.
Okay.
Rick Sheridan, of course, being the host of Sleepwalker. And when Rick Sheridan sleeps, Sleepwalker comes out to fight crime. It's sort of like The Head, but not so weird.
Which is also a reference nobody else is gonna get. But
yeah,
that's
right.
Cool.
That's what this part of the episode is. We're at the obscure esoteric reference portion of the episode.
Usually starts about a second in and lasts until about a second before we wrap up.
And then right before we give our Twitter handles. But so he had to team up with Scott Banner, who is the little monster. The angrier he gets, the smaller he gets. And then Jan is Janice Jones, and she's the Wasp and the Beetle combined. They had to help Eggman. No, Headman. Headman was his name. And it's Egghead and friggin' the Leader as one character. It's just, it's so brilliant. Like, I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, this is checking off all the boxes from young, like, Devon Decker's desires and beliefs and what comics could be. And then the fucking reveal at the end of the second issue, which is all that's out there right now, is we've been having a lot. Your name's been coming up a lot lately. Someone is trying to find you, and Project Obsidian keeps bringing it. Now, Project Obsidian is a huge callback to freaking like issue 21 of the Sleepwalker books from that first run. Like, it is a dream force, like the Dream Police force.
Yeah.
Were corrupt, so that's why they started Project Obsidian. So people are looking for you, sir, and we don't know what it means. And the final reveal is that Nick frickin' Fury, got merged with Rick Sheridan. So, like, the freaking guy of the Marvel Universe got merged with Sleepwalker's host.
Oh, man.
And is Rick Fury. And I'm just like, this is awesome. This is everything I needed in, like, a comic. And it starts out, Rick Sheridan is making a documentary about C-list level supers. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, every reason why I love Sleepwalker has been, like, distilled and continues to exist in this book. Oh, it's so good. It's like I had to share it. I had to share that, like, and plus, like, Little Monster is the most inspired thing because they're like, well, you need to go inside of him and fight the infection. You're going to need to get angrier than you ever have before. And then he shrinks down to, like, quantum realm level. Like, that's how angry he gets. And the creature that has made Headman sick is just the abomination, but, like, made of mucus. So then, like, all these tick things are going off in my brain from that episode where the mucus tick was made. And I'm like, this is everything I needed right now to, like, remind me of why I fell in love with comic books. And why I fell in love with comic books is that, like, this is a world where these people exist. But, like, this shit has to be happening. There has to be people who, like, just have powers in a world like this who are, like, I don't know, fixing the basketball court in the park.
Yeah, exactly. This is a world with supers everywhere, and at some point, like, there's so many supers that some of them just have to be, like, regular folks otherwise, right?
Yep. Oh, I'm so happy. I have not been this excited about a comic book in a long time. And it's like only like 20% the fact that it's Sleepwalker. It is 80% the fact that, like, he's the one they're examining the world through.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And speaking of comic books, Sejohn, the time is up. I'm talking about it. I have given you 3 weeks to catch up on DuckTales. I have asked you to watch 1 episode of DuckTales, and you have failed. And this is the anger I put off. I said 40 minutes, Devon. 40 minutes, no anger. And then you can rip into Sejohn, the Duke of Bologna.
Okay. All right, let's do this.
All right. So, when the new DuckTales premiered, Flintheart Glomgold, who was staring at me, he stares at me whenever I record this show. Flintheart stares at me. And I love him. He is one of my favorite characters. But the new DuckTales comics are very, very, very based on the original Carl Banks, Donald Duck, and DuckTale comic books.
For sure.
That is where they're like, you know, there was a show, but, like, there was also a comic book that inspired that show. So let's like teach people about that a little bit. And the big thing about the comics is that in the comics, Flintheart Glomgold is from South Africa. He is not also Scottish.
Right. We've talked about this before, that he pretends to be Scottish in an effort to be better at Scrooge than at every aspect of Scrooge's life.
And so
including
I said,
his nationality.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Did he do that in the comics?
I don't.
Because I believe what we talked about was, my theory was that he is from South Africa in the show, but he is just pretending to be Scottish. Because of his whole, like, he thinks he's so rich and so Scottish.
Yeah, I like this theory. That must be what it is. This is now headcanon for me.
Well, Sejohn, it's headcanon for the world. And that's why I wanted you to watch this series. Because you saw the end of the first season, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the spoilers for season 1 of DuckTales, Magica De Spell gets the #1 dime and creates an army of everybody's shadows. And we see Flint's getting stolen from him and him falling into the ocean. He got amnesia. And when he woke up, he believed he was Duke Bologna of South Africa. So he talked with a South African accent this whole episode, and, like, Webby and Dewey, I don't know, I think it was Webby and Louie. Yeah, it was Webby and Louie, because Louie is a con artist. So he's like, he's obviously playing a con, Webby. He is pretending to be South African so that we will think that he is fine, like a different person. But he's everything about him has changed. And he talks with this heavy South African accent and, you know, talk. So then they're like, you know how we can prove it? We make him talk with Scrooge. So Scrooge goes down and talks to him and they end up hugging. And Scrooge is like, that's definitely Flintheart Glomgold, but he's happy. So I'm not going to do anything to change what's happened. to him. This amnesia is the best thing that could have happened to this man. Him believing that he is this person is what he needs right now. And it's like this beautiful moment, but all the meanwhile, in the back of his psyche, he is tormented by McDuck and McDuck Enterprises. So he becomes a fisherman, and McDuck Enterprises, they get more fish, so we don't have any fish. So he plans to blow up their fleet, and we see like his very, very repressed memory of him as a child in South Africa, doing exactly what Scrooge did when he was a child, shining shoes. So he shines Scrooge McDuck's shoes, and rather than give him a big money and big tip, he does for him he does for Flintheart as a child what was done to Scrooge McDuck, and just gives him a dime to be like, you earned this dime, now you know that you can go out and earn a fortune. Flintheart completely denies that, like, you're a cheapskate, you son of a bitch, ends up lifting McDuck's wallet and says that he will be better than him in everything, even at being Scottish. So my theory from like episode 2 of the DuckTales cartoon turned out to be correct. And I've been sitting on the fact that I was right so that I could not spoil it for you. But I couldn't go.
The hardest thing that Devon ever had to do.
I couldn't. Because, like, you don't understand, we were sitting there, and Dale has this huge smile on her face. And then it goes to commercial, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't. She's like, I'm so happy for you right now. Because you wanted him to be from South Africa so badly. And they did it. And like, and I mean, there's all these times in my life where I'm like, that was done just for me. And it can't just have been done just for me, right? Because that has to have been done for everybody who read those Carl Banks comics, right?
Oh, of
like,
course.
And it just was like this moment where I felt unified. Like, there has to be other people out there who appreciate it on that same level. That I was like in tears of joy that like that's the route that they went, in a way to preserve the original art and the original character, but also bring it into terms with what was happening in the 1987 one, where they really couldn't make Flintheart Glomgold from South Africa, because this little thing called apartheid was going on, and
it would have been a political statement that Disney would never have been willing to make at the time. Yeah,
it's not like it was the 40s.
Right. Oh man, well, that's awesome, man. It shows that they are the people working on that show are very aware of what their audience wants, and what their audience actually, deserves. Which is really nice.
Oh God, I want you to watch it more. It's a secondary spoiler because it's in the trailer. The 3 Caballeros were in an episode.
I know. I got to get caught up to that episode. I've been so excited to watch the 3 Caballeros episode.
It's 5 episodes. There's 5 episodes. That's episode 4.
I went to I actually, after that, I've been trying to find now any of the comics because I had one when I was growing up. I had a Donald Duck 3 Caballero comic, and I just want to find like any issue of Donald Duck with it anywhere. It's become like a weird white whale ever since I saw the preview for that episode. It must have been like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
because it was like a really big thing that they brought the Caballeros back, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah, it is.
Jose and Pachito. And it was a great episode too. Like, I finally understand. Like, ever since we started doing the show, you've been like crowing about the Mickey Mouse cartoon that Disney is currently doing, and how like much it pays tribute to the history of the character.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, this is how Sejohn must feel all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've talked before about the idea of nerds taking the wheel, right? And fan fiction becoming like the actual fiction and all that sort of stuff. And, like there's some examples of that obviously going haywire, but I think you look at stuff like what Disney's doing with a lot of their animated stuff right now, and it's really cool. They're actually letting fans kind of see and explore things that they've always wanted to. And it's great. It's a fantastically perfect tactic to like keep people involved for more than just their young lives. Here we are now watching DuckTales on a level that no kid is watching it, but we get to watch it on this level. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I think we talked a lot last week about like people trying to connect, with young audiences and older audiences, and how that doesn't always work, and it's awesome that this one is.
Yeah, it really, and I'm sorry that I couldn't keep it inside any longer, but just Sejohn, I was I remember sitting here talking into this microphone and being like, here's my theory. It's ridiculous, but if it happens, and
well,
then
I'll tell you right now,
happened,
if I had watched that episode before we had this conversation, I think I would have just assumed that that's what it always was. I don't think it would have clicked even in my head that it was something that you came up with.
Which really says something, audience listener at home, about the influence that I have over Sejohn.
Yes, that's a little bit more than I thought it did. Wait a minute.
If you had that theory at home, that I'm the machination man behind the curtain pulling the strings, congratulations. 96 episodes in. It's been revealed as canon. Oh, jeez. Whew. So speaking of canon, right? I'd like to talk briefly before we say goodbye this week about my own personal canon.
Okay.
And a conversation that I have been having since high school. A conversation I believe that I've had with you. I'm gonna throw it out there to you, and we'll see if you remember having this conversation with me before.
Okay.
And that is, I am a huge fan of Sliders. Sliders is a show that really does it for me.
Yes, we have talked about Sliders.
Well, no, that's not.
I think every time we're in the car together, one of us says, "Oh, if only that red light were green." Like,
yes, and we focus on jokes specifically from the pilot of Sliders. Oh man, good times.
What a waste! What a waste of a pilot. They get to go to a whole new dimension or world or wherever, and they waste it on. They go to a planet where red is green.
Okay, that red is not green. Just red means go and green means stop. That's that's what it is. But the reason is that first time that Quinn slides, the world has to be almost imperceptible from ours. Like, it needs to be almost the same. It'd be like if he went to a world where everybody had like green skin, he'd be like, what the fuck happened? Like, it needed to be something small before they got to explore. And I mean, in that same episode, they explore two really other cool Earths. But like, you're right though. Everybody remembers the world where red means go and green means stop. There's other stuff in that one too. Like, I think Elvis is the president or something. Like, oh, weird joke, Tripper. Weird and not very funny. All right, but you know that I'm a fan of Sliders. I'd like to think that anybody who talked to me for like more than 5 minutes gets that. But now it's here, recorded on digital tape. But as a fan of Sliders, there's a question that I have been asking since high school, and that is, if you were to meet the parallel universe version of you, from the universe where all genders are swapped, right?
Okay.
And you like, so obviously you guys would probably be compatible, you and female Sejohn, right?
Okay.
Do you think...
I don't know. Probably not. But yeah, we probably would not like each other, I'll be honest.
Okay. But so for the purpose of this particular experiment, you guys are into each other, and you have the opportunity to have something physical happen between the two of you.
What is this what-if conversation that you are having with yourself?
Do you sleep with female Sejohn from a parallel universe?
First of all, like I said, I probably wouldn't like them very much. Secondly, no, that's the okay. Wait, now do I Okay, this doesn't change my answer. I'm just curious to know: do I know that this person is me from another universe?
Of course.
Then no, doubly not. Double no.
I want to be. First of all, I was excited because I got the best conversation regarding this happened last night. But you are the first person in the entire history of me asking this question who says no.
That's insane. Whoever else you talk to about this is insane. You are insane. Whoever meets themselves and the first thought they have is...
Not the first thought. It's a what-if... It's a what-if conversation. So then the question...
DTF? Me? What's up? Oh my God.
Your entire world is the same. You have lived the same exact life, but the genders are swapped up until the point of convergence.
First of all, there's a lot of things I've done in my life that if my gender was swapped, things would have been really awkward.
But all genders are swapped, so less awkward. It's not just your gender. The entire universe's genders are swapped.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
All right, well, so yeah, but so because usually everyone says yes. Hey, honestly, you're the first person that I can remember. I believe you're the first person who ever said no. So, like, pat yourself on the back for that. You're not so hard up for sex that you'd bone down on the alternate gender parallel universe version of yourself.
For surely not.
But then the second question that I always have, right, and this is the one that throws people off, right? As offended as you are by the initial question, this is the one that offends other people.
Okay.
Would that be sexual intercourse or masturbation? Because you're just pleasuring yourself.
Well, no, that would be sexual intercourse.
Okay, right?
That would be sexual intercourse because you're two separate beings. You know what I mean? Like, you don't merge into one as much as the poetry would tell us otherwise.
Okay, I love it. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. This is your number 3. Congratulations on best conversation that this has ever inspired. Number 2, this was number 1 for a long time, but it fell to number 2 yesterday. Was the principal of my high school sat down at our lunch table while we were having this conversation. The first time that I ever had this conversation with people, the principal of our school sits down at our lunch table and is like, "So what are you guys talking about? You seem to have a good time."
Oh, God.
And I'm like, "Well, Mr. Nelson, the question on the table is, if you meet the alternate universe," and I asked the whole thing, and he goes, "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, of course I would do that." So he's all about it. Like, it's this weird moment, seeing that, oh man, I'm not going to change that much when I grow up. Nope, this stuff stays. And then I ask him the second part, and he goes, "It's sex. The fact that you would even insinuate that it's masturbation is disgusting." And he stormed off in disgust. He was all about hanging out with the fun laughing guys in the lunchroom. And then I asked that question about sexual intercourse and masturbation.
No, the question doesn't disgust me at all. It's just common sense. It's like asking somebody, when you mix yellow and blue, is it ever possible to get purple? Well, no, you just get green. That's just right. What happens.
And the proper response obviously would be sexual intercourse because there are two people involved. Masturbation, it could be mutual masturbation, but then it would still be the act of two people pleasuring one another. So last night, I recently did the impossible, and that is,
where's this going?
As a person in my 30s, I made new friends.
Oh,
and I feel like this is impossible, because they always talk about how hard it is to make friends as an adult in Seinfeld. There's a whole episode called "The Boyfriend," where Jerry's trying to become friends with Keith Hernandez. Right? We all remember it well, I'm sure. Season 3. It's a good one. I enjoyed it. Anywho, so there's this thing, and it didn't really matter to me in the real world until last night, and this is not related to that conversation getting better, but my mother's like, "I want you to know I'm kind of proud of you for making new friends as a grown man." Because that doesn't happen. You should be proud of yourself for bucking the trends and beating the odds. And I'm like, "Thanks, Mom. That's cool." Weird conversation.
It's good that you're getting out there, Devon. It's good that you're putting yourself out there in a vulnerable spot.
Well, I guess it's kind of true, right? That a lot of people would just be in their basement, I don't know, talking to their friends from college for a podcast.
I mean, especially if the conversations they're going out there and having with people are, "Would you fuck yourself from another world?"
Right. So, that's not what I lead with. I'll be honest with you. So yesterday I go out with this new group of friends that I made, right? And we end up at Foolproof Brewery in Pawtucket, which I'm not a fan of Foolproof Brewery. I didn't think I was a fan of Foolproof Brewery because to me they are represented by that orange, blue, and green can. that I see at every backyard barbecue in Rhode Island.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Just because everybody else loves it, it can't be good, right?
No, I mean, like, because those beers arguably are not that good.
Well,
I feel like people are like, oh, it's from Rhode Island, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not that great. like it's cool that it's brewed in Rhode Island, but like, it doesn't taste that good. Yeah, you don't taste pride. But going to their brewery and seeing that like they're way more than just those 3 cans of beer, totally revolutionized how I feel about this brewing company.
Yeah.
So we're there, and they have a pretty good deal. $10 gets you 6 5-ounce samples.
Jesus. Okay, fantastic.
So we do that. So we get it, and we're drinking. We're having a good time. We're laughing. We're talking. And in walks, so this group of people, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. In so much as there's 4 dudes and 1 girl.
You went from okay, whatever.
No, we're Seinfeld, Sejohn. I've made new friends. They're always sunny in Philadelphia.
They're grosser than you, so clearly.
So we're there and we're drinking, and in walks a group of 4 women, and I would have sworn that they were the parallel universe gender opposites of the 4 men that were there in my party.
Oh God!
So I'm sitting there.
Are we about to go real blue? Are we about to earn that explicit tag?
Oh, dude, we've earned that explicit tag already. I said cunty, right? That's like my catchphrase. You see that meme where it's like, if you were a doll that had a pull string on the back, what would it say? It'd be like, Julia Roberts is real cunty. No, so I see it, right? So I'm doing the math in my head as to like how it works. I'm looking at our shoes, and I'm like, oh, do any of us have the exact same shoes as anyone over there? I'm looking at body type, colors of clothing, right? So that I can so I have this in the back of my mind percolating, right? The kind of stuff that I'm always thinking about, right? Like I'm like 70% in the conversation that I'm having, and then the 30% of my brain is like working on ridiculous theorems. And the ridiculous theorem I'm working on last night as I'm drinking beer at the Foolproof Brewing Company is how these 4 women are the alternate universe gender swaps of the people that I'm there with.
Fantastic.
So then they leave, right? And the joke, the whole party is like, man, we almost could have made something happen there, right? 4 of them, 4 of us. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure those were our... And then I prepared the theory. I might as well present it. So I present the theory, and I'm like, yeah, so you were the tall one, Lance, because you're tall. Justin, you were the girl in the vest.
Watertight.
You were the girl in the vest because, she was the thinnest of the group. And he's like, I was the vest girl? He was so happy to be the vest girl. And then, me and Jake, the guy with the gallon of water, I'm like, and we were those other 2 who kind of looked similar. I almost made them you and Justin because you're brothers. But then I looked at the color choices, and there was one in a gray shirt and black pants, which is what I'm wearing. And then one in the blue shirt and blue pants, which is what you're wearing. Like, it was airtight, Sejohn. It was an airtight theory.
So you just traveled to another dimension last night.
Or they traveled to another dimension and had beer. Also in their dimension, people hate beer. Because they took a drink and they're like, this is gross, and left. So like this whole thing. So then I like present that theory, and they're all like, this is the best thing about these new people that I'm calling friends. They're all about it, right? They're like jumping on and like throwing stuff out there as to how it could be true. So then I'm like, all right, now it's time for the coup de grace. I'm gonna break out that high school question.
Oh God!
So I'm about to break out that high school question when the lady of the gang, right, Laura, goes, wait. If that was an alternate universe version of us, where was my counterpart? And I'm like, oh, Larry? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, yeah, just for ease of access, we'll call him Larry. I'm like, Laura, is there ever a time in your life where like you almost died? And she goes, actually,
no.
And she goes, actually, yeah. I go, Larry didn't make it.
That's the difference between their universe and ours.
There's a difference between the universes. But then, like, this is way off topic on this whole story, and this is so inside jokey, but I don't care because it made me so happy, Sejohn. This conversation happened with another group of people. I go, Lance goes, wait, how did you almost die? And Laura tells the story of how she almost died as an infant. And it's just like, oh my God, like it got real dark at this time. And I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. So then I'm like, you know what, I got to break it out. I got to break out the high school question. And I asked the question, and before I even get it out, like, Lance and Jake are like, yeah, of course, why not? Yes. And then the question of whether or not it's masturbation or intercourse, and they're like, yes, of course it's intercourse. It's not masturbation. You're an idiot. So like it's this fun conversation, but then we get like existential with the fact that so Laura and Justin, they're a couple, these two people, right? So he's like, would you sleep with the female version of me? And she's like, no, I'm not gay. I'm not into that. And he's like, so if I become a woman, this is over.
And that's how Devon broke up his new friends.
And no, because then the best thing, this is how fast these new friends work, is that Laura, after that whole, her response to that is not like sadness or anything like that. She goes, would you sleep with the male version of me? And he's like, oh God, no. So I go, all right, so you guys are going to break up, right? You're even. You both know that that's the line you wouldn't cross.
Oh God.
And it just got so good. And they were coming up with like rules if it ever happens. and it just made me so happy that this conversation I have literally been having for 24 years, made 25 years really, made such jovialness happen.
There you go, people.
That was fun.
You'll be listening to this 20 years from now, and it'll still be relevant.
So here's the question. So here's your Say Report homework.
Yeah.
Ask your friends if they were to meet a alternate universe version of themselves that's gender swapped, if they get down and dirty, if they'd make whoopee.
And then when you don't have friends anymore, just come back and listen to all of our show again.
Yeah.
And
just send us an email to thesayreport@gmail.com saying you ruined our life. And I don't know, we'll send you a hat or something. It won't say the Say Report on it, but I'll send you a hat. So that's me. I know that was a little self-indulgent, but I love that. Have I really never asked you that before?
I don't think we've ever had that conversation.
No, because I would remember. Because I don't think 13 years ago, if I busted that out to talk to you and you said no, I would ever forget that you said no. Hell, there's probably a universe out there where you did, and this show doesn't even exist. So if you'd like to get existential with me regarding parallel universe theories and the Einstein-Rosen bridge, you can find me on Twitter @Devon D. Decker.
And if you want to argue with me why it wouldn't be gross, you'd be wrong. But you can still get back at me at Siege versus the World on Twitter.
And until then, let us throw it to the parallel universe version of our hype man, Wilma. Take us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.